Yesterday was exactly 11 years when Boko Haram terrorists abducted 276 students from Government Girls Secondary School in Chibok. To date, the whereabouts of over 100 of the girls remain unknown. Arise correspondent Friday Oloko filed this report.
Before that fateful night in 2014, Chibok was a quiet town in northeastern Nigeria, but on April 14th, it became a symbol of national tragedy. Boko Haram stormed the school and kidnapped 276 girls. Just weeks earlier, the group had murdered 59 schoolboys in Buniyadi, Yobe State, solidifying its place as one of the world's deadliest terrorist groups. The Chibok girls initially mistook the insurgents for Nigerian soldiers. These, despite warnings from security agencies urging then-Governor Kashim Shettima, now Vice President, to relocate final exams to Maiduguri. Their warning was ignored. Security was promised but never delivered. The attackers arrived in a convoy. While a few girls escaped, many were taken deep into Sambisa forest. The abduction shocked the world, prompting a global outcry and a viral #BringBackOurGirls campaign led by activists like Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. Countries, including the US, UK, China, and France, offered support. Surveillance reportedly located some of the girls early on, yet no action followed. Boko Haram's leader, Abubakar Shakau, later released a video of over 100 of the girls in captivity, some in hijabs. Many were forcibly converted, married off, or subjected to brutal abuse. Others who resisted were allegedly raped or killed. The abduction soon became entangled in political narratives, with claim it was used to weaken the Goodluck Jonathan administration ahead of the 2015 elections. His successor, Muhammadu Buhari, campaigned on promises to rescue the girls, but failed to bring all of them home. Now, under President Bola Tinubu, there has been little public mention of the Chibok girls or others like Leah Sharibu, abducted in Dapchi in 2018. More than 100 Chibok girls remain missing. Their silence echoes in a country still scarred by reoccurring abductions. The question remains, where are they? Nigeria's leaders must move beyond political divides to ensure the safe return of every citizen held by terrorists. The world is watching, so are the families still waiting, still grieving.
Right, so joining us now is Ayo Obe, a lawyer and a former president of the Civil Liberties organization. And I must have to confess, one of those that truly was in the vanguard and fought for democracy in this country. It's more than a privilege to always have you here, man. And I mean, for those just watching, if you know the days of the June 12 struggle, you would definitely recognize and respect the work of Ayo Obe. She went through a lot, hurt for democracy.
Laying it on with a trowel.
I must have to give you your flowers and your credit where they do, because I don't think we give a lot of that credit to you, especially in the media. Let's go straight to it now. You are on another very sad, advocacy, which is the Chibok girls. A very, very sad one. 11 years down the line, we don't have those girls back home.
Yeah, I think that 11 years is evidently too long. We've been saying 5 years too long, 6 years too long. Now we're saying 11 years too long. The fact is that we believe that the government is falling down on the job. It's an embarrassment, there's no doubt. The girls were taken from government custody. The first response of government was denial. Then it became, because it occurred at a political time when elections were coming up, it became something that the incoming government said, we are going to do something. And they did do something. They brought back several of the girls. But when they could not bring back all of the girls, it became an embarrassment to them. and the current administration is even the girls who are rescued and who are under their care in, for example, at the American University and other places, they're not necessarily very concerned about them. I mean, from my point of view, if you look at the way that the Israelis have, the evil that they've done in Gaza, and yet they still had to negotiate with Hamas in order to bring back some of their hostages. And so if that level of destruction and devastation, and you still have to come to the negotiating table with the kidnappers or the abductors or the freedom fighters, I think that our government should not feel that it is any kind of, it's not a loss of faith at this stage to say that we are ready to negotiate. After all, you remember the time, well, you may not because you were young, but there was a time when President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, when he saw that this matter of kidnapping and then the activities of Boko Haram in particular were getting out of hand, he went with Sheikh Husani to meet with leaders of Boko Haram and to negotiate with them. Unfortunately, the negotiations fell apart because when they gave the list of those who were to be released, their members who were to be released, it turned out that a lot of them had died in custody. And so the Boko Haram felt that there was nothing for them to gain by talking to the Nigerian government. And in fact, that they needed to go and learn how to fight. And that's what they did by taking lessons from Al-Shabaab. But down the line, what we are seeing is that there is a huge gap between what the government has done in Borno State and what is needed on the ground. I mean, we have people coming from Chibok all the time to report about continued attacks on their community.
And let's talk about that gap and the information that's required for civil society and communities to be able to actually act. Because we know there was the Brigadier General Sabo fact-finding committee. That report has never been published. We don't know its contents. And I understand Bring Back Our Girls has renewed the call for that report to be published. Why do you think that 11 years later, the fact-finding mission that is supposed to empower us to be able to tackle this and ensure it doesn't recur continues to be silenced?
I don't know why it's, I mean, I really have no idea. And I don't even know what Brigadier Sabo could have found out that has not been alleged that now has to be kept secret. I mean, if you deal in any of the conspiracy theories, you would have seen that there are all sorts of stories, ranging from the former President Buhari was behind it to all sorts of things. So that I don't know what it is that, I mean, and if it's dereliction of duty or incompetence, and I'm one of those who always says that never ascribe to malice what can be ascribed to incompetence. So if it was incompetence, we're already, we've all taken that on board. So I don't know why it should be hidden. As regards the actual facts, now the Bring Back Our Girls campaign and the Murtala Mohammed Foundation are in the process of conducting an actual audit, because your reporter was saying there are over 100 girls. We know that it's now probably less than 90. We need to have exact numbers and the exact figures, because we don't know how many of them have survived the captivity. It is a fact that some of them were married off. We remember in the early days of the abduction, one young man was telling his friends, oh, he's going to get married, and they were saying, oh, where did you see a wife to marry? And he said, oh, well, I've got one of the Chibok girls. I paid 2,000 naira in those days. It's a lot of money for them. And he's got a wife. Now, we don't know whether some of them have merged into a community, but what we do know is that their parents, their relations, their families don't know where they are. We can assume that some of them are kept outside Nigeria. For example, the Dapchi girls who were kidnapped under the administration of President Buhari, they were kidnapped and taken to Niger or Chad. And when they wanted to come back, they found that the people were either speaking Hausa or French. So, and they were returned, of course, to their captors until there was a specific negotiation to bring them back. So we can't even be sure that they are inside Nigeria. Whatever the relations between Niger Republic and Nigeria are, I think we can still cooperate with them and communicate with them, because this is not a fire that stays in one house. If people from Niger Republic were being recruited to join Boko Haram, and Nigeria is only blaming the government of Niger Republic, that's not really going to advance the cause of bringing back the girls.
You mentioned former President Obasanjo trying to negotiate with Boko Haram. There's been a big debate as to how to deal with terrorism. Do you meet them with force, or do you negotiate? I would like to know where you stand on that. And then this matter of data, on knowing how many girls are still out there. They were taken from a particular location. There's this conversation around data management, knowing how many people live where and who's registered. So is that a data failure? And then so where do you stand on negotiation versus force, and then on the data matters with knowing who is where?
Well, I think on negotiations, that's why I specifically cited what is being done by Israel in Gaza. They have, I don't even want to think about it, because it's really quite disgusting. The Nigerian army cannot behave like that. In fact, I pray every morning that the Nigerian army will succeed, but they will continue to observe human rights and humanitarian law. Now, some may say that those two aims are incompatible, but that should be our aspiration. We don't want a government that comes out openly and says we don't care how many people we kill. We cannot afford to treat our own citizens, our own country, in the same way that the Israelis are treating the Palestinians in Gaza under the guise of chasing terrorists. So force, yes, you have to be ready to respond, but I think that force is much more of a matter of instant response. When something happens, it should not be a matter of we were still trying to get the message. Because when the Chibok girls were kidnapped, you remember that their parents were following them on foot. The lorries were going at a leisurely pace, and some of the girls, because they were in a lorry being driven by a former Chibok abductee boy, they were jumping out of the back until it was noticed. And then the villagers along the route told the parents, you better go back. So it wasn't that the Chibok girls' kidnappers were racing out of the country. Unlike the Dapchi situation, where they were hurried through. In fact, it was such a bad situation that some of them died in the course of being crammed into the lorry and kidnapped. But we need more of that. And it's not just with regard to these mass abductions, but kidnapping in general.
Okay. And information, really quickly, the data part. Can you quickly talk about that data, identity?
Yeah, we used to say that the reason why we took up their case is because we know their numbers and we know their names, and we even have their pictures. Unlike many others who were victims, we don't know the numbers, we don't know the names.
Right.
Okay. I have a quick question to ask.
Yeah.
The memorial, which is probably the only memorial I've seen in Nigeria in Falomo, the roundabout. Most of those pictures have been taken out. They are building some bird or some eagle or big bird rubbish there. Is that not an assault on the memory of those girls and what all of you put together there? Why did they take that memorial out?
Well, you should know that, first of all, the pillars are actually decorated representing the Chibok girls.
Yes.
And the forest in which they were hidden. Okay. But the roundabout is leased to Fidelity Bank. They have supported us, and we only stopped our sit-out because they were of the work going on. But we are resuming.
Okay. Madam Ayo Obe, I wish we could speak for much longer. Very important issue, and of course we continue to say, bring back our girls.
Let's not forget them. That's the main thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.